A company in New Jersey told its young female workers to put a radioactive paintbrush in their mouths every few minutes, and they did it for years. The company knew the material was killing them before the women knew they were sick. When the women sued, the company hired lawyers to delay the case until they died. Several of the women did. The ones who survived changed American labor law permanently. This is what the company knew, and when they knew it. In 1917, the United States Radium Corporation opened a factory in Orange, New Jersey. The factory's primary product was luminescent watch dials. The dials glowed in the dark because they were painted with a mixture containing radium. Radium had been discovered by Marie Curie in 1898, and by the 1910s it had acquired a reputation as a wonder substance. It was being marketed in consumer products, including toothpaste and drinking water and chocolate. The glow was considered desirable, and the radium producing it was considered harmless. The women the factory hired were mostly young. Many were teenagers. The work paid well compared to other options available to working-class women in 1917. The job had a name: dial painter. The technique they were trained to use had a name too, and they called it lip pointing. Lip pointing meant using your lips and tongue to bring the brush to a fine point before applying it to the dial. Supervisors demonstrated the technique and instructed the women to use it. The women were told the radium paint was safe. Some of them painted their nails with it after their shifts. Some painted their teeth so they would glow when they smiled in the dark. They were young, and the work was good, and they had no reason not to believe what they were told. The United States Radium Corporation employed its own scientists. Those scientists knew by the early 1920s that radium was dangerous. They knew because they were taking precautions for themselves. The scientists handling radium in the laboratory used screens and tongs made of lead. They never touched the material directly. The women on the factory floor were using their mouths. The company knew that radium accumulates in bone. It behaves chemically like calcium, and the body deposits it in the skeletal system, where it irradiates the surrounding tissue from inside. This knowledge existed inside the company before the women began getting sick. When workers started reporting symptoms, the company's response was to deny any connection. A company doctor examined sick workers and told them their symptoms were unrelated to their work. The doctor was wrong, and the company knew he was wrong. Internal company correspondence from this period has survived. It shows company officials discussing the health risks of radiation exposure while simultaneously telling workers it was safe. The first symptoms were dental. Women began losing teeth for no apparent reason. When dentists attempted to extract problem teeth, the jawbone crumbled around the socket. In several cases, the jawbone itself began to disintegrate. One woman's entire lower jaw was removed by surgeons in an attempt to stop the spread of necrosis. The bones throughout the body became fragile. Women sustained fractures from ordinary movements: a hip breaking while walking across a room, a spine fracturing without impact. The radium was destroying the bone structure from inside. The women who were dying glowed in the dark. Their bones were so saturated with radium that their bodies emitted light. Physicians who did not know what they were looking at in the early cases recorded the symptom as a curiosity. It was not a curiosity. It was the company's product, destroying them from the inside out. The condition had no established name at the time. It would eventually be called radium jaw. Women were dying, and the company continued operating the factory and continued the lip-pointing instruction. In 1927, 5 women from the New Jersey factory decided to sue the United States Radium Corporation. Their names were Grace Fryer, and Edna Hussman, and Catherine Schaub, and Quinta McDonald, and Albina Larice. By the time the case came to court, all 5 were in serious physical decline. The company's legal strategy was straightforward. Their strategy was to delay. If the case could be delayed long enough, the plaintiffs would die and the lawsuit would die with them. The company's lawyers filed motion after motion. They challenged the jurisdiction. They challenged the evidence. They requested continuances. The women were too ill to sit in a courtroom for extended periods. The delays were not incidental to the company's defense. The delays were the defense. The case attracted national press coverage. Reporters called the 5 women the Radium Girls. The public followed the case, and the public was angry. The judge in the case took the unusual step of allowing the women to give their testimony from stretchers. Some of the women could not even raise their arms. In 1928, under sustained public pressure, the company settled out of court. Each woman received $10,000, a $600 annual pension, and medical care for the rest of their lives. 4 of the 5 women who brought the case died within 2 years of the settlement. The Radium Girls case was the first successful lawsuit where an employer was held liable for occupational disease caused by working conditions in United States history. Before this case, the legal doctrine of assumption of risk meant that workers were considered to have accepted the hazards of their job when they took it. The Radium Girls case broke that doctrine. It established that employers have a duty to inform workers of known hazards. It established that concealing known health risks from employees is legally actionable. It became the foundational precedent for occupational health law in the United States. The dial painting factories continued operating after the settlement. Women in Illinois were still being exposed at the Radium Dial Company in Ottawa as late as the 1930s. Several of them had read about the New Jersey case in the newspapers. They sued as well. They won. The bodies of the Radium Girls are still radioactive today. Researchers who have studied the remains in the decades since their deaths have confirmed that the radium in their bones has a half-life of 1,600 years. Meaning it takes 1,600 years for half of any amount to decay. The women died in the 1920s and 1930s, and their bodies will remain radioactive until the year 3500. The company that killed them was never criminally charged. Its executives died in comfortable retirement. The legal protections the women fought for while dying are still in force today. Every American worker who has ever been told about a hazard in their workplace has the Radium Girls to thank for that. Every detail in this video is documented in court records and internal company correspondence available through public archives. The next video is already waiting for you. Stay on the channel.